The war in Ukraine has been going on for 22 months and there are tens of thousands of deaths from both sides. All this time, with so much loss, the battle lines have almost never moved. But last weekend Russia tried to break into this deadlock with a sledgehammer. I asked Fred Kaplan what happened. Russia usually launches several rockets at the same time. Maybe a dozen rockets can be too much. They fired rockets close to 180 at the same time, he said. If someone had predicted the day before that Russia had so many missiles, he might have doubted it. Later, Ukraine fired its own rockets into the territory of Russia in retaliation. This seemed to me to be the escalation, a new kind of tension after 2 years daily conflict on the ground. One security expert said that what surprised them was not only the sheer number of missiles Russia fired, but that some of them flew in circles and flew towards their targets. In other words, this shows that Russia still has some kind of integrated command system, Kaplan said. We are beginning to understand that Russia has more reserves in terms of not only weapons, but also manpower than everyone thinks. An army that has begun to take some lessons from its past failures and has made adjustments, which means that they can last longer than calculated. As Russia's Ukraine war enters a new phase, we talked with Kaplan in a recent episode of What Next about whether the West would find cash to keep Putin away. Our speech was shortened and edited in order to provide clarity. Mary Harris, what do you think the situation is like in Ukraine right now? Fred Kaplan, the current situation is still in a stalemate, but at more intense and more devastating levels. If you look at how much territory has been captured, that has hardly changed in the past 9 months. And it actually continues to change. Ukraine could take over a town or Russia could take over a town. But that's sort of net zero. Ukraine, on the other hand, began to move outside its former borders. He was stepping back from attacking the targets within Russia. Now, there are real rocket attacks, such as the attack on Belgorod. It is clear that these are things that were thrown out of Ukraine. It happened in response. In other words, Tamam. We will show you that we still know how to play asymmetric warfare. You fire 150 missiles at cities. We are after something in Russia. This accelerates the struggle. This is, you do not respect our borders. We no longer respect yours. Does that concern you? Because you said that when you attack inside Russia, it potentially turns into something bigger and potentially attracts more fighters. These red lines are thin enough to question whether they make sense or not. The U.S. has always said that U.S. weapons will not be used for this purpose. That was one of the reasons President Biden was reluctant to send long-range missiles to Ukraine for a long time. They did not want to give them a missile with which they could shoot down Rus.